Howdy folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today for you I have a Bjorn's Mighty Thoughts video. I'm going to be taking time and talking about something I'd seen something recently in my news feed for a Cowboy Bebop tabletop role-playing game. Now I've covered a role-playing game in the past. I don't talk too much about tabletop role-playing games, but for the most part I am interested in various tabletop role-playing games. I've played everything from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness to Dungeons & Dragons to Star Wars D6, Star Wars D20, 3 different versions of Star Trek. The list just goes on and on and on. I've never really been really interested in the anime style role-playing games, but this one's actually got my interest piqued because I am actually a fan of Cowboy Bebop, particularly the anime. I remember that kicking off Adult Swim back in the day when Adult Swim started. Man, what a great thing Adult Swim was back in the day. But either ways, so this is a game that's actually being created by Don't Panic Games. And I did look at their portfolio, and they kind of got my head scratching because I didn't really see anything that's ever indicate that they've done tabletop role-playing games before. And a lot of the stuff that I seen that you can get from Don't Panic Games is mostly board games and like deck builder type games. Something like Magic the Gathering, but it's not. It's like a DC Comics deck builder game. Admittedly speaking, I've never played any games from them before. Now, this is something that they're going to be bringing to Kickstarter. So they are going to have a Kickstarter campaign going, which I'm going to have a link in the video description down below for their Kickstarter. And what you're seeing here is actually different screenshots I had taken of the playtest rules that is posted on a website. I'm going to share that here in a bit as well. But the thing that I can really appreciate is this is more focused on the anime aspects of Cowboy Bebop, not so much the live action, which... yeah, I have my opinions about the live action, but we'll let that go. Now, the one thing I will admit is there seems to be, it's kind of, the play style is more of a style over substance play style, something very reminiscent to actually Cyberpunk, if you will, the Cyberpunk tabletop RPG in particular, which I don't think is a bad role-playing game. I've played Cyberpunk Red, actually. Now, the cool thing I do find about this is this seems more story driven than skill track driven. I know with games like Dungeons and Dragons, like the Wizards of the Coast games, their Star Wars D20 Dungeons and Dragons, they tend to kind of get bogged down on skill checks and looking for modifiers and looking up different rules. And this game doesn't kind of look like one of those games that it's really going to get bogged down. Skill checks is going to be more or less a thing that, how do I want to put it, that you're just going to have to do from time to time to maybe push the story along, or because of an action scene, or because, I don't know, you want to hack a complicated device. Maybe you want to do some kind of super awesome maneuver in your starship, whatever. And that I can kind of appreciate because it doesn't bog down the gameplay. Now, the one thing from the playtest rules that I did get, which, by the way, you can actually get those from TTRPG for free. So I will put a link in the video description down below for that as well. So you can go down, if you're interested, go check it out, download them. The thing I'm going to have to say, though, with the playtest rules is there's not really a lot there that's like indicating to me what the final product's going to be, but it does kind of give me a generalized theme and feel of what the final product is going to be, in the sense of how is this game going to play, things of that nature. Now, that being said, I don't know, like, ships are part of the game, and where I kind of felt like at certain points ships were almost a character in itself, especially like the Bebop, which, you know, the characters lived in the Bebop, and at times it felt like that, particularly certain episodes of Cowboy Bebop made it feel like the Bebop was a character in itself, even at times with the swordfish, and that it was a primary focus of an episode. And there's nothing really there for ships, which was kind of disappointing. I don't, and there's just not a good, there's no explanation at all on the ships and how the ships are going to work and stuff of that nature. It would have been nice to have that, just to have like a little preview of that, because I do feel like the ships are going to be important, because, essentially the part of Cowboy Bebop is traveling throughout the galaxy, going through warp gates, traveling from place to place, finding your bounties. So it would have been nice to kind of see a little bit of a preview of that as well. The primary part of the preview was mostly focused on the bounty hunters themselves. So essentially you have the players, which are the bounty hunters, and then you have the game master, which they call the big shot, which I kind of like that. That's a nice tip of the hat off to Big Shots, which was, for those who aren't familiar, there was a bounty hunter TV show where they would talk about different bounties that were available throughout the galaxy, and that's what the show was called, was Big Shots. And so that's kind of cool that they named the game master the Big Shot. So that's cool. You got your bounties, and the nice thing is too is I think on like most games, the story's going to be more focus driven, finding more or less as you're doing your investigation, you're going to find out information of your bounty, and that's what's going to build up the story. And the different things you're going to have to do to find your bounty, maybe, trying to, maybe get some bribes to get some information, or setting up surveillance or whatever. And I think that's actually kind of a cool aspect of this role-playing game. Not saying that's something you can't do in any other role-playing game, but the core of this game is absolutely going to be laser focused on that. As well as there's also going to be parts where you're going to want to kind of focus on the background of the bounty hunters, the players themselves. This game looks like it's a game that could be played with essentially nothing more than a big shot, the game master, and a bounty hunter, the player. It would probably be better with a group, maybe 2 or 3 bounty hunters. I would say probably 3 bounty hunters at most, maybe 4, but I think it's more it's kind of, you gotta kind of look at this. There's a reason why it's Cowboy Bebop, and they're just not using the Cowboy Bebop IP. I think because of how they're doing this and what I'm seeing from the test rules, it looks like it's focused to being very similar to the show. You're doing your own story. From what I can tell, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to play the actual characters from the show. And honestly, I think that would kind of ruin it to play the characters from the show. I think a game like this would be more fun playing as maybe competing bounty hunters, where you might run into the characters from the show, such as Spike Spiegel or even Vicious or Jet Black or, etc. There's multiple ways of introducing stories because, of course, there was the Big Shots TV series that was part of, it was like a series within a series of Cowboy Bebop, as well as law enforcement could give tips for different bounties. You could find various bounty postings through government websites, etc. So there's a lot of opportunities there, as well as introducing bounties and getting the characters kind of in gear to go after bounties. But essentially the game is going to be driven around being a bounty hunter in the Cowboy Bebop universe. Now, that being said, I personally, in my opinion, I think it's a little late to the party to be using this IP now to make a Cowboy Bebop role-playing game. I'm not saying that the game's going to be bad. It looks interesting to me, at least. But the thing is I'm a fan of Cowboy Bebop. I remember watching the show way back, like I said, when Adult Swim first started, was at like 99, 2000. The show goes all the way back to 1998. You know, the only, I mean, maybe the saving grace for this is going to be is there was the Netflix live action series, and that even though that live action series bombed, it raised a lot of interest in the anime, and the anime has been kind of making a comeback. Now, is it as popular as it was back when it first aired on Adult Swim? No, probably not, but it's, I would say Cowboy Bebop's probably got a pretty hardcore fan base, and I would say the cool thing is, too, is you're going to have a combination of older, the people that would play this, you're going to have a combination of older players, players that are like literally near their 40s, as well as younger players, and probably more or less the older players are going to be the big shots. You know, and they're going to be the more experienced, more than likely they've already been game masters for various tabletop role-playing games and probably have told different stories in different types of formats with different types of goals, different types of characters, etc. But I just don't know. I still kind of feel it's kind of late to make a role-playing game on the RP, you know, this RP now. But who knows? We'll find out. We'll see what happens when the Kickstarter gets going. Now, unfortunately, I don't know when the actual Kickstarter is starting. But you can go to the Kickstarter page. You can set it up that you can get a notification when the Kickstarter starts. And like I said, I'll put a link down below for both the Kickstarter page, and I'll put a link down below for the drive-through RPG link, so you can go download the playtest rules. But anyway, folks, that's really all I got for you. A really quick video just to talk about the Cowboy Bebop tabletop role-playing game. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for tuning in. And who knows, maybe I'll cash in on this thing, and maybe I'll have a future review on my channel for the actual Cowboy Bebop role-playing game. Anyway, folks, thanks again for tuning in, and have yourself a wonderful day.